Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media. The 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less. Lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance." Roll that around for a while. Those were among his final published words. He died 10 months later. Here we are 25 years later, realizing just what he was trying to tell us back then.
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful. It's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
And they also asked, could you elaborate on what's the Gorgon stare that Ashton Forbes has spoken about both on social media and here on the show? I haven't had Ashton on here in a while, but the last time I did have him on, he spoke about that program, Gorgon stare, and basically wanting to know, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and why it would be so secret?
Yeah, I can't.
This is the part. This is the part, by the way, where I said I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer it if it's really in your wheelhouse. I figured you would know about it, but I figured you probably can't talk too much about Gorgon stare. But I mean, can you say anything?
Yeah. No. Nope.
Fair enough, but it is real. It does exist.
I would say that Ashton's very good at his research.
Okay. All right. I guess we will leave it at that for the Gorgon stare question.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining in the live stream. TGIF, everybody. Thank God it's Friday. Guys, if you have had a long week like me, then, oh, boy, I almost didn't live stream tonight, guys, because there's been so much content, but I just decided, you know what? I just can't get enough of you, chat. I can't get enough. I just don't know how to quit you, chat. Okay, guys, it's been a great week, though, just being perfectly honest. So today we're going to do a little bit of a reaction to some of the content that's been going on. If you did not check it out, the Hard Truths with Jason Jorjani dropped last night. I was in the chat for like most of it. I would say I was in the chat. You can check it out anywhere where you can listen to audio podcast, or you can check it out on the YouTube channel as well, wherever you want to watch it. But please do watch it, because I think that it represents probably my most accurate understanding of where this Tesla physics came from, how it got developed, And I've been wondering, how far back can we draw a line from this 0-point energy technology? And I do think that it goes back to Tesla, but then there's this huge gap till like the 1960s. And that's where Jason Jorjani, I think, offered a lot of information that really fills in that gap. So check it out, guys. It was great. We're going to talk more about it later tonight. In addition to that, the other big thing, the reason why I was late to the premiere yesterday is because I was doing a live debate after work yesterday. And I want to talk about that in just a minute here. So we're going to talk about both of those things. And then at the same time, Age of Disclosure has dropped. Woo! And of course, perfectly in sync with the drop of the Age of Disclosure movie, you have the Joe Rogan interview with Dan Farah, the producer, who's got me blocked. So I'm going to keep mentioning I've been blocked like a spoiled, upset little child. Okay, guys. Now, before we get to that, I got a reply from David Kirkley of Helium Fusion. People should stop underestimating me. I know how to make people respond. I know how to needle them and make them respond. I got Lex Friedman to respond to me and block me. It was a little bit, he overreacted a little bit, right? It was the Stewie Brian thing where where Brian flips over the couch and then Stewie goes, well, that's a normal reaction. So David Kirkley, how did I get him to respond? I basically said, what is the significance of a non-equilibrium plasma when it comes to aneutronic fusion? And this actually opened the door to understanding the plasma physics even better than I understand it now. I may have been wrong on one point. So if you look at the thumbnail right now, you will see the orbs in the MH370 videos. And we can see the shape of this orb. We can see this heat signature of this orb. And I said that the heat signature is the hot electrons. It turns out I might have been wrong about that. And there's actually a few different possibilities. It could be the electrons that are clustered together. It could be the ions that are clustered together, which is the opposite of the electrons, is what's left over after we rip the electrons off. Or it could also just be a heat signature of some apparatus inside of the plasma orb that's giving off heat. Those are the three options. David Kirkley responded, and he said that in a non-equilibrium plasma, the ion temperatures are much hotter than the electrons. In fact, I looked up his scientific paper and read it, and the ions are 10 times hotter than the electrons in a non-equilibrium plasma. And then I also cross-referenced further because every time I hear about these non-equilibrium plasmas, I always think about Salvatore Pais. Salvatore Pais, here you go. Listen to this.
Way to see what the Pais effect is all about is to say it's really the generation of extremely high energy densities that are obtained by the accelerated vibration and or accelerated spin of a non-equilibrium plasma. That means the plasma that's out of equilibrium. You can think of that. They have a term for it called cold plasma. Cold, as in non-thermal plasma, and it really has to do with the electrons of this plasma that talks to the plasma density very high. The number of these electrons do not observe something called a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. That's what a cold plasma is all about.
Chat, I want to show you something. That was the very first interview I ever did with Salvatore Pais, as you can probably tell from the production quality. You can probably tell from the production quality and the giant headphones that it was basically like me rocking the 1980s style. You know, we had to upgrade. We had to modernize our presentation a little bit. It was quite embarrassing to be rocking that while you're talking to a U.S. Navy engineer who, by the way, has very clearly been exposed to plasma weapons, right? Like, can we just be honest about this? Okay, Sal might say that he hasn't worked on nukes. Fine. I think he was being coy because, like, I think the definition of nukes now is super nebulous. Salvatore Pais has obviously been exposed to plasma weapons. Obviously. Nobody goes like, hey, man, I've got this dope idea called the Pais effect. And It just requires a non-equilibrium cold plasma. Okay. Hold on to that thought. This is David Kirkley's scientific paper. This is David Kirkley's scientific paper. If you just search non, take a look at this paragraph right here. Ion temperature. As described above, the S parameter for a stable FRC field reverse configuration is in the range of 1 to 3, almost ensuring a uniform ion temperature profile within the field reverse configuration. It is important to note that the ion temperature within an FRC can be temporally different by species and or follow non-Maxwellian distributions. Didn't Salvatore Pais in that clip just say that these cold plasmas follow non-Maxwell-Boltzmann distributions? The same thing that I think David Kirkley is saying right here. I think he said something else later on. Let me see what I wrote in my notes here. So here's the 3 factors of this. What we're looking at, Sal knew what he was looking at in these MH370 videos. He knew right away. And now that I know what we're looking for, now I know too. We're definitely looking at non-equilibrium plasma. And we can tell the density of the plasma. If you guys ask Grok right now, what would a non-equilibrium plasma look like? It'll tell you that it's going to be the same temperature as the atmosphere. And what we're looking at here is the surface temperature of the plasma. We're looking at the surface temperature of the sphere of the plasma when we're looking at here. And it's the same temperature as the background. It's very cold. Relatively speaking, that's extremely cold. So we're definitely looking at a non-equilibrium plasma where we've got separated positive and minus charge. My only question is, why are we seeing this heat signature? Is that heat signature the ions? Is that heat signature the electrons? Or is that heat signature some apparatus that's absorbing energy from within the plasma ball? Now, low temperature. Do you know what they use to make these low temperature plasmas? Anyone want to guess? What do they use to make these low temperature plasmas? They use helium-3. What? Helium-3? You mean the aneutronic fusion fuel helium-3 is what they use to make these cold plasmas. It seems obvious in retrospect. Now it's all making sense. We aren't just looking at some cold non-equilibrium plasmas. We're literally looking at aneutronic fusion reactors. Previously, I wasn't sure if those fusion balls are conventional fusion or if they're aneutronic fusion that's going on. Now, 100%, that's aneutronic fusion propulsion we are looking at in those videos. We know because of the cold temperature of the plasmas. The plasma is relatively cold, and that must mean it's using a specific fusion fuel, not just any fusion fuel. And the density is super high. If you look at the plasma videos that they showed of these tokamaks, you see like a couple lines of color, but mostly you're just looking right through it. The transparency tells us how dense it is. And we can kind of see through it, but kind of not, which tells us that's a pretty dense ball of plasma. So the point being, Salvatore Pais knows. Salvatore Pais knows, and the question we should ask is, how does Salvatore Pais know? Obviously, it's connected to his research in the U.S. Navy. Obviously connected to his weapons research. My guess is we've got plasma weapons. Whatever you would call that, and it's not really, shouldn't be that much of a guess. John Ramirez, former CIA, has been talking about plasma weapons nonstop. Nobody just seems to take it seriously for some reason. And these plasma weapons aren't just like us confusing things on the radar with ghosts. Like, these are physical objects that can zap things out of the sky, make them disappear. Okay. I just wanted to talk about that because I've been looking into that and it's kind of bugging the hell out of me. But this is the other thing about it, is that David Kirkley's got to know as well. Anybody that's looking at the MH370 videos, anybody that's looking at the MH370 videos that works in plasma physics, they got to know what they're looking at in those orbs. The first thing you would look at that, you would go, huh, that's really dense plasma. That's interesting. It's got to be potentially theta pinch, dense plasma focus, or reverse field configuration. Like right away, you can narrow it down if you understand plasma physics and fusion. And that's what bugs me, is that why aren't these people talking about it? Why aren't they looking at it and going, that's crazy. That looks just like our field reverse configuration. That looks just like a theta pinch. Instead, they're like weirdly not talking about it. Like they're afraid or something. I don't know. I just find that kind of odd. Guys, I want to talk about the debate. I want to talk about the debate, but before I do that, there's a couple things I want to mention here. Just from a personal perspective. I think it's probably time that we start talking about the future, right? It's fun to research things. I love researching things, and people probably wonder why I don't do more research on some of these topics. First of all, I just kind of do whatever I want. But also, I think that we have to start to wonder, at some point, we've learned enough. I honestly feel like I've learned enough. I don't need to know exactly how every little minutia of everything works. What I want now is that'll make a difference. And so that's pretty much what my goal is. That's what I'm trying to do. Is how do we bring light, these technologies that they're hiding or suppressing, however you want to refer to it, that are coming to fruition right now in front of our eyes. And so I think highlighting those technologies, the political aspects of those technologies, ensuring that the government is supporting those technologies is huge. One of the things that we're going to talk about with the age of disclosure is the weapons race between China and the United States. I think that cannot be understated. And I think that these spooks that are talking about that are dead on the money on that. They're absolutely right. So we have to be thinking, what are the ways where we advance the future? We bring fusion out. We explain 0-point energy to people. I really only want to cater to high IQ futurists, because I think that everybody I talk to, and I got a response back from John Warner about this. I don't think he'll mind me saying this, is that hopefully I can connect with him in the future. His big thing is, how do we prevent World War III? That's exactly where we should be thinking. How do we prevent ourselves from destroying ourselves? Because that's where this is headed. This is headed to a situation where somebody blows up this whole planet, or worse, maybe just destroys our whole reality. Depending on how the time travel stuff plays out, it's not looking good for us. It's not looking good. And I want to address, like, I was in this debate. I was in hostile territory yesterday, guys. I went straight into the mouth of the lion's den with no protection whatsoever. None whatsoever. And they're right. The people that are the critics are somewhat right about me. I don't want to be pigeonholed into MH370. Does anybody want to be pigeonholed into anything that's out there? They're right. I don't. And that's part of the reason why I'm talking about other topics. But I'm also talking about other topics because the technology in the MH370 videos is inherently political. And I personally believe that they are talking about this technology in code words. Drones flying around. Nukes that we can't allow our adversaries to have. These are just code words for the public that has no idea what nukes look like or what drones do anymore. We look at everything from a simple conventional perspective, but the higher level, they're not looking at that way anymore. So that's the reason why I want to expose the geopolitical aspect of it. But not only do I want to branch out, but they're also right. You are all also right that I'm extremely knowledgeable about MH370. Obviously, that would be my bread and butter if you're thinking about it from a perspective of my various skill sets. Let's just be honest. No, the MH370 videos would not have any play at all if it weren't for me. Nobody would ever be talking about them if it weren't for me. They would have gone the wayside as debunked videos that nobody would have been paying attention to. That's not me being egotistical. It just is what it is. And I think, as I showed in the debate, no disrespect whatsoever to the sneezing monkey. I thought he was a nice guy, and I think he's pretty intelligent. And I actually think we are a lot closer aligned than what he or his followers would expect. Because ultimately, I'm a skeptic at heart too. People just don't realize it because I'm making some claims that are obviously extremely difficult to swallow. So, no disrespect to him, but at the same time, I think you can see that I'm no slouch when it comes to this topic. Not only do I have answers for every possible question you could come up with, but I've also researched the plane in such depth that I'm going to tell you stuff that you didn't even know about the missing plane. And I didn't even go through nearly all of it yesterday. It was just part of it. So let me just say this. I prepared a little statement. I'm not going to read verbatim, though. It's true that I do make a little bit of money off of this. Can't deny that. It's not a lot of money, though. It's not a lot of money where you're going to change your life and you're going to go, make it all about this, what have you. And I don't want to either. I don't want to. Most of the money I make goes right back into the production of this, which includes the people that manage my social media, the people that make clips on this. And truthfully, I wish I could pay them more money. But I don't make enough money doing this to pay them more money. I think that it's extreme. And this is a direct statement to the sneezing monkey and to his followers in general. Because I think the most important part of this at all is for them to understand where I'm coming from on a personal level. And here are my feelings on it. I think it's extremely important that this topic, MH370, the videos, the science and technology around them, be an organic thing. I mean, look at the age of disclosure and compare it to what I have been doing here. It is night and day. And I will basically want to do the exact opposite of what those people are doing. And doing that does not make friends. Telling the truth is rarely popular. Telling the truth is rarely popular. And that's probably part of the reason why they're doing this slow drip plan. And that's not what I want to do. So I'm not saying this, and I'm not trying to convince you in this debate to change your mind. That's actually not what I want to get out of it, out of the debunkers and out of the skeptics, or for Sneezing Monkey. I actually want you to be my harshest critic. I enjoy it. I enjoyed that. I want my ideas to be tested. Maybe there's something I missed. A great example of that is the Gorgon stare. Would I have ever figured out the Gorgon stare if people weren't pressing so hard on whether or not satellites could take that video? Maybe not. I want to play this game on hard mode, the hardest mode. In fact, I play all games on hard mode. That's a true fact. I love playing on the hardest difficulty. And the only way that I think disclosure will ever happen is that exact process, the way you're seeing it get played out right now. Not in a fun, happy way where you have your paragon of virtue, your hero come out and tell you what you want to hear. No. It's going to come from the person that you don't like. It's going to come from the person that you don't want to be correct. It's going to come from all of us ultimately accepting that the world's a little bit more complicated than what we thought. And it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be a long process. And I've said this from the beginning. This is not a race. This is not a sprint. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to be talking about it. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of people talking about the videos. I'm not afraid of people talking about the videos. I'm not afraid of skeptics debunking the videos. Silence is what the people hiding the videos want. That's the only way they can win. The way they lose is if we talk about the videos. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep talking about the videos, even if nobody else does. I'm going to talk about the MH370 videos until the day I die. And the reality is, I would rather die a nobody than die as some famous person, some elite person. That's just the truth about the kind of person I am. I would be happy dying as somebody that nobody ever knew And then in 50 years from now, they find out, oh, wow, this guy was right about these videos out there. Because to me, that's the right way for disclosure to happen. Disclosure should happen from a random Joe figuring out their secret and just exposing it to the world bluntly and barely in a way that is not easily to absorb. It's going to be catastrophic disclosure the whole way, guys. Last thing I want to say on this. Do you guys realize that I am implicating my own government in these videos, in the MH370 videos? I love my country, guys. I love America. I came back here after living overseas because of how much I missed living in this country. Tons of expatriates never come back to the United States. I thought about it, but not me. I fucking love it here. We have it so good in America. Most people don't even realize how good we have it. And the reality is, I want to push it even further. I want to be one of the people that can help push it so that we are just light years ahead of other countries. And it actually hurts me to think that discussing the MH370 videos harms national security in a way that allows other countries, other adversaries, specifically adversaries that are much further behind, to catch up. That's the reality. One last thing I want to address is that a lot of people, I do often hear that I am exploiting a tragedy. But do you want to know what the truth is? The truth is that the spirits of the passengers, they are right behind me. They whisper to me. They say, don't ever stop. Even if the whole world is against you, we will win. Okay, guys. So regarding the debate, I think it was important because I wanted to show people that I'm not to be trifled with when it comes to debates. But at the same time, I'm not somebody that is going to just, yell at you, scream over you. I don't need to win a debate that way. I can win a debate on the facts alone. So please realize that while you see me bombastically, emotionally charged on live streams or on social media content, realize that that is, yes, me, of course. But people generally kind of turn up the character a little bit for social media so it's somewhat more enjoyable. Doesn't change the facts of the situation. But at the same time, people need to realize that that's just how people are, especially in 2025, guys. So I can be somebody that crashes out. At the same time, we can have an easily respectful conversation between two adults without it devolving into yelling matches, even if we don't agree at the end of the day. And that's why I thought that conversation was so important. And I'm actually disappointed that it hadn't happened earlier than that. So it was quite impromptu, by the way. I just kind of got up. Somebody pinged me. I was done with work. And I'm like, oh, wait, somebody's talking about me? And it just kind of happened. And I thought the other reason is, as I said in that statement that I made, I want my ideas to be challenged. I want that. Because I am a skeptic myself, and I'm just trying to solve the mystery. I don't understand the full mystery myself. Why did we use this weapon on the plane? Just like I told the sneezing monkey. I said, why did we break out this weapon? This is the kind of weapon you only break out when World War III is about to happen. So why did we break out that weapon on the plane? I do truthfully believe that it's because we are in some kind of secret, covert arms race with China. That does fit the motive. Why would we do that to a plane? Well, we're in a secret arms race with China for, I don't know what you call it, quantum weapons, alien weapons, UFO weapons. I don't know what you call it, whatever you want to call it. So I thought that was great. And also, I feel like I reached a few people. Even people that, they still think I'm delusional, making stuff up, what have you. But I think that if you can win in a contest of ideas, That's how you change minds. That's how you really make people wonder. And now knowing that the footage is Gorgon's stare, it makes that a lot easier because it gets more progressively difficult to explain how the videos could be fake if one of them is a perfect recreation of a real secret classified surveillance system that nobody has ever seen. Nobody's ever seen out there. So, I don't want to go on too long on this, but the key point is this. Everybody wants to know what the standard of proof is when it comes to UFO videos, when it comes to the MH370 videos. When it comes to the MH370 videos, I want to put the goalpost down right now so that the goalposts cannot be moved later on, which I already know that they will be. Somebody is going to eventually come out and they are going to admit that that's Gorgon stare footage. I mean, I'm yelling it from the rooftops. That's Gorgon stare footage. Just imagine, assume that I'm correct. Even if you don't believe me, assume that I'm correct for a moment and that really is military Gorgon stare Air Force footage. Imagine all the people that know that footage is real watching me talk about it, even though I don't know for a fact because I haven't seen the footage. I've never seen Gorgon stare beyond this. Imagine all those people going, holy crap, this guy knows. They want to talk, right? They want to yell out, yes, 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 you got it, you got it. Think about all those people. Eventually, one of those people is going to talk. Maybe many of those people will. Maybe there will be a floodgate that opens up after one of those people starts talking about it. And this is the burden of proof. When an Air Force military person comes out with their real name, real face, whatever it is, puts their credibility on the line and says, yep, I'm whistleblowing. Nobody's ever said this. Nobody's ever come out and admitted what Gorgon stare looks like, what it can do. But I've seen it. I've worked with it. You're looking at it. That's it. That's the bar. That point, that's the point where now the burden of proof is flipped. The burden of proof has flipped at that point from me having to prove the videos are real to you now having to prove that they're not Gorgon stare. And I know people aren't going to like that because they're afraid. Because deep down, people are afraid that I'm right. And they're afraid that that's going to really happen. Which it might. I mean, it will eventually. It will eventually. So that's where I want the bar to be, because I don't want people later on claim, oh, no, it was like the military faked this footage, or like, no, somebody just magically divined what Gorgon stare looked like and was faking it before 10 years before anyone even knew that it existed or what it looked like. That's the point where we've gone past plausible deniability at that point, or not plausible deniability, but the burden of proof. Reasonable doubt. That's what I was looking for. We've gone past reasonable doubt at that point. So that's where I'm setting those goalposts right now. And that was the biggest thing I want people to take out of that debate. Because a lot of the arguments that are being made are subjective arguments. Oh, I think there's like the biggest one was the polygon. I've seen that debunk. I've seen every debunk that's out there. I thought that was one of the weakest ones because I can literally just look at the videos and I can tell there's not polygon shapes. And I've seen the Reddit post where somebody like tries to draw a line and be like, look, it's like, it looks like it's from Tron. It looks, square shaped, and that shouldn't be the thing. And then I just look at the original footage and I'm like, I'm not seeing it, man. I'm just not seeing it there. I'm watching the real footage and there's clearly no like polygonal shapes that are, can't be attributed to just basic artifacts or low compression or something like that, or whatever you call it. So I didn't, those are kind of arguments, or the reticle, right? The reticle debunk, where it's like, look, man, have you actually looked at footage? Or the best argument for the reticle is, have you actually used these cameras before? Because you all are telling me you don't even know what the cameras are. You're saying that it's all fake, but you're also saying exactly what it really should look like. Because it would be a very powerful debunk to have somebody that's worked on those footage before, worked on those cameras, come out and say, no, that's not what this camera looks like. This is how it works. But that's not what's happening. Instead, it's people that have no idea how the cameras work, who are making subjective opinion-based arguments about how they think it should look. So those obviously don't have much weight, especially because I know the footage is real, so I know that people are just kind of making up things. That's not to discredit. I mean, I understand why people do that. I'm just trying to tell you why that doesn't really have any weight at the end of the day. And those arguments completely collapse. Completely collapse when somebody comes out and says, that's real Gorgon stare footage. That's exactly how it looks. Because when that happens, now all your arguments about this is what it should look like. It doesn't look like this. It should look like this. Those are all now defeated. Completely defeated. And then, yes, as somebody just said in the chat, another great point. I didn't wait around. I could have easily said, hey, these videos, I think these videos are real. I'm just going to wait for like the news to pick up on it and them to do their own investigation. We didn't wait. I realized the videos were real. I was like, okay, what's the next step? The next step is figuring out what are these balls of plasma? And now I think we can answer that question. We can answer that question. Those are fusion reactors, neutronic fusion reactors flying around in the sky. We're looking at neutronic fusion reactors flying around in the sky, perfectly consistent with real physics papers by people that are doing that fusion right now. Right now in the commercial space. That at the time of writing those scientific papers, did never expect that some videos like this would be on the internet. Do we really think that a hoaxer knew military surveillance capabilities, the actual Boeing 777 configuration with the air conditioning manifolds you can see right through the skin of the plane, all 6 of them? Not only that, but they also happen to know about nuclear physics and fusion that, like, let's be honest, took me 2 years to understand non-equilibrium plasmas. But the person who faked these videos is making perfect non-equilibrium plasmas that nobody had any idea what it should look like or what it would look like in a thermal video. I mean, the amount of skills. And then, so not only that, but they also have to be like a master VFX artist that is like making videos from 2 different angles perfectly in sync, which the explanation I got was not adequate for my liking. This idea that, oh, you just make this big background, this super high resolution image, and then just like convert that into 3D. Like, what do you mean just convert it into 3D? Yeah, you like press a button in Adobe FX and it'll just, convert it to 3D for you. In 2014, with 2014 software? I doubt it. Press X to doubt. And that's one of my favorite things is that people try to explain how to make one video. And when they do that, they almost always explain it from a 2-dimensional perspective. They're using 2-dimensional stock effects. They're going, yeah, here's my 2-dimensional thing. And then I go, well, isn't there 2 videos from like completely different angles? And they're like, yeah, but then you would just like, have the camera like follow it. And I go, yeah, that's called 3-dimensional environment. That's called making a 3-dimensional environment. That's what that is when you are talking about that. And 3-dimensional VFX is a completely different beast when it comes to faking things. So I think that's enough on the debate video. Now, the debate video is up. I posted a link to it, and I will post a link. I'll put a link in the description later tonight. I'm going to upload it on my channel too, just because I think it's a good conversation, and I think it's a good example for people to watch of the main arguments on both sides about the case. And then they can come to their own conclusion. I don't mind. And I think it was respectful. I don't think, I'm not here to like dunk on Sneezing Monkey. It's not my thing at all. I thought he was a nice guy. I have seen, it did look like he's made some videos about me. I'll say I haven't seen any of them, and I don't care. I don't take it personally either way. Like, I've got really thick skin. Anyway. So, okay. So that's the debate, guys. Now, let me see what I got here. Oh, one more detail about the field reverse configuration since I was talking about it. from this same paper. I want to go back to that for a second. Do I still have it up? I do. Here we go. Take a look at this. You guys are going to love this. Here's your Yahtzee moment for the night, guys. Guys, who in the chat knows? Who in the chat knows why graphene? Why is graphene the secret sauce? This is a good one, right? I'm out here just spitting facts for you guys. This is going to make you impress your friends, especially your scientific friends later on. Because everybody knows graphene is some dope thing. Why is graphene so special? Why does graphene allow free energy or whatever else we're having? Yes, because it is one layer thick. That is a good point. But it's more than that. The electron drift velocity. The electron drift velocity of graphene is super high relative to something like copper, where the electron drift velocity of copper is very low. Remember, if you drop your magnet through your copper tube, it goes super slow. Graphene has a very high electron drift velocity. Now imagine, remember, the Doppler effect. If two things are speeding away from one another, the waves will either compress, depending on if they're coming together, or if they're moving away, they stretch out. So this effect is what allows us to get non-relativistic or relativistic. How do they refer to it? Relativistic motion. So we can now get speeds that are from a relativistic perspective, from the perspective of the electron itself, very, very high. And when we get to these super high relativistic speeds, this is where we start to break the laws of physics. So this is me just explaining at a very basic level that anybody can understand. Why is graphene so awesome? Electron drift velocity, number one. Why is that important? Because the faster your electrons are moving relative to one another, now you get relativistic motion. Now you can get super high speeds. Now we can basically start breaking the laws of physics from a relativistic perspective, because all of us are in our own little bubble all the time. And time is always moving at a constant rate in our own little bubble. And that's also true of the electrons. The electrons themselves are also experiencing time dilation. And so this is why we want this relativistic motion between them. This is why graphene is so important. And now that I've said that, let's take a look at this scientific paper one more time. What does this say right here on page 4 of David Kirkley's Helium Fusion scientific paper about aneutronic fusion for commercial purposes? Beyond simple heating by uniformly distributed ions, field reverse configurations also have large parallel electron drift velocities along the magnetic field. Because the electrons are highly magnetized and can freely move along internal flux surfaces throughout the FRC, both axially and between the core and radial edges, this transport results in uniform electron temperature throughout the FRC. Oh, booyah! Sweet sassy molassie. That's just Shaquille O'Neal breaking the backboard right there. Boom! What is going on? How are we making our free electron laser in our fusion reactor? That's how. The electrons are moving freely along the axial path. And what do we see happening along the axial path in our orb videos? We see the X-rays coming out. We see the X-rays coming out because we're pre-ionizing the air in front of the orbs. And then imagine there's a tube inside the plasma orb. And the electrons are able to flow back and forth relativistically like this. That is your free electron relativistic X-ray laser. The fusion reactor is producing the X-ray laser on the inside because of the field reverse configuration. Now, if I'm wrong and it's not exactly a field reverse configuration, this is still the same mechanism. If it happens to be a theta pinch or a dense plasma focus, they're all very similar concepts. I happen to think that it is field reverse configuration exactly, but the only person that could tell us that I would trust would be David Kirkley. I want to hear directly from David Kirkley or maybe somebody at Tri Alpha Energy, because I got a weird feeling that these guys have seen that, like in their experiments. They've seen something that, looking at those videos, they're like, uh-oh, uh-oh. Imagine you do some experiment in one of these fusion companies and you're making these like balls of plasma. And then you see like, a specific heat signature or something in there. And then you see the MH370 videos and you're like, oh shit. You see those videos, you're like, oh man, uh-oh, something's going on here. Right? Like you'd probably be spooked. I'd be spooked. So there you guys go. That is your Yahtzee moment of the night. Guys, check out the David Kirkley scientific paper. I had to download it. I should be able to post a link in the chat for you guys later tonight as well on that front. Okay. Let me take a look here what we got next. Okay, I think we'll end with the Jason Jorjani. So I want to talk about age of disclosure here for a minute. I think I've got a clip ready to play for the age of disclosure for us. And also, by the way, guys, I do recommend if you are using AI, it's actually pretty solid now. If you have it reference the scientific papers that I talk about on my Twitter in whatever question you're trying to ask it, and it will be probably pretty accurate. I mean, you don't have to limit it just to stuff that I talk about, but a lot of people ask me, like, where can I find the science and stuff that you're talking about, right? Like, realize we live in a world with AI. AI can do the heavy lifting for you now. So just be like, hey, cross-reference the scientific papers and Ashton's Twitter posts, blah, blah, blah. Boom. Trust me, you'll get good responses. Okay. This is a clip from Joe Rogan. So I tell you guys that even if I don't like people, and let me just be honest, I don't really like Dan Fair. I don't know him personally or anything like that, but I don't like him because he's got me blocked, and I just get weird vibes from people that pre-block me. There's a lot of elitism that happens, especially in the UFO community. So more elitism than you could possibly imagine in the UFO community. And also, truthfully, my vibe is that they know what I'm exposing is literally the technology they're talking about, and they've got a plan, and I'm kind of spoiling that plan. That's the impression I get. I could be wrong, but since none of them will talk to me, literally none of them will talk to me, I'm going to go with my gut on this one, right? What are you afraid of is my question. What are you afraid of Dan Farah? What are you afraid of Hal Puthoff? What are you afraid of Chris Mellon? Why are these people afraid of a one-on-one conversation? I went on into the lion's den, straight into debunker enemy territory with no preparation whatsoever. And off the cuff, I had a debate all about MH370. There was no problem for me because my only goal is the truth. And yet, all of these UFO disclosure alien head people, they will only do softball interviews, only go on an interview where they know the outcome's predetermined. CNN, CNN, Fox News, Joe Rogan. And they've got Joe Rogan wrapped around their finger, chat. They've got Joe Rogan wrapped around their finger. And I don't even know if he knows it at this point. That being said, they can still be right. I actually think in a lot of situations, the truth is somewhere in the middle. The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And I think that they know the truth. The difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing is, this is the thing that bugs me about these guys. They know what the answer is. They're like admitting that they know what the answer is. But instead of just telling us, they're doing all this fanfare. It's like, guys, if you watch anime, who watches anime in the chat? You keep your anime away from my children, mister. Oh, wait, do I have it? I don't have that clip ready. Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see any more anime stuff happening to my son, Buster.
In these animes, they'll have a lot of filler episodes. They'll have episodes where it's like they just didn't decide, they didn't feel like doing an anime that week. So they'll just have it be like a flashback episode where it's just a bunch of, a bunch of stuff they already said, repackaged together. That's what it feels like with this age of disclosure stuff. These are the people that literally say they know. They've already made this movie like 10 different times with the same people that all say they know what's going on. And then they never say anything. So why are you making the movie? If I was making a movie about MH370 and I just said, I have all this information, but I'm not going to tell you any of it. Guys, the United States took the plane, but I can't explain why or tell you why, and it's a secret. You'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you even making a movie then? What's the point? What's the point of making the movie? And that's the question we should be asking. Why are these people making the movie? Why are they making this documentary at all? Why are they making the same documentary they made 7 times before? The conclusion that I reached is that this is all planned out. Their whole thing is planned out. They came with a plan that was like, okay, we're going to make a bunch of documentaries that will slowly wake people up to this, because movies are how you disseminate information to the masses. I could totally see a CIA, in some boardroom in a CIA conference room, them meeting up and being like, okay, guys, how do we start to disclose this technology to the public? Who has a good idea? Hal Puthoff in the corner. Well, turns out that like the media is really popular these days. What if we made some movies and we have some people go and talk in the movies about stuff that they've seen? And there he goes, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Let's do that. And we can even enlist Hollywood elite directors, and we'll have them do the documentary about us. It'll be all about us all the time. It's like, that feels like what they did here. It feels like what I'm experiencing. Because they could just tell us the truth. Just break your NDA and tell it, that's a movie I'll watch. You want me to watch one of your stupid alien movies? Then just tell me exactly what you know, break your NDA, and I'll watch the hell out of that movie. I'm down. Start spilling the beans, man. But you start trying to tell me that the aliens are invading and secretly controlling the government, and we've been reverse engineering crafts. Show me evidence, because those kinds of things can be misconstrued easily. And that's what the CIA does. That's literally what the CIA does, is try to control narratives. And that's the only vibe I'm getting from these people, is they're trying to control the narrative of how this plays out. That's the vibe I'm getting. And that's the reason why I think they got me blocked, because I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing the control the narrative vibe game. I'm doing the opposite of that. I'm going, tell me what you know, and now we know what you know. We know what you know now. It's aneutronic fusion propulsion. You've been making little plasma orbs that are flying around in the sky. And if you want me to believe, yes, we are crashing out. If you want me to believe that little green men flew around in the little plasma orbs to come to Earth, then you best produce some alien bodies. I don't know if you got to use CRISPR and some chicken bones, and you got to make up some alien bodies for me to believe in, then you better start working on it right now. Because my standard of evidence is extremely high. I'm going to ask for a third-party DNA consultation on your alien bodies when you wheel them out. Just saying. Just saying. And hey, if they want to get mad at somebody because I'm not buying into their alien thing, I understand it. I'm actually open-minded to aliens. I wanted aliens to be real. I wanted aliens to be real. I still want aliens to be real. But now that I've seen them using plasma orbs to zap an airplane out of existence or teleport it somewhere else, you goddamn right I'm going to be demanding a DNA test on your alien bodies. I don't trust you at all. I don't trust you. You got plasma orbs teleporting Boeing 777s away, and you want me to believe that the aliens are here? Man. That dog don't hunt. That dog don't hunt. First things first, start telling the truth about what you did to MH370. After you start telling the truth about your plasma orbs that are flying around, that people are clearly misidentifying as aliens, then we can start talking about how many 50 species of reptilians and shit like that are visiting us. Then we can start talking about Mass Effect 5. You know, how many We got the sloth aliens that only feel emotions. And the thick whites are, of course, are going to be involved. Okay, I ranted enough. Here's the clip. That was all just to get us ready for this clip right here.
Getting these crashed UFOs. What's the story behind that?
So here's an interesting thing. One of the unexpected things I learned in talking to sources, like real credible people, is that some of the crashes were actual crashes, where just, crashes happen, just like they do for, you could drive as safe as possible, fly as safe as possible, crashes are going to happen. But some of them were actually caused by elements of our military intelligence community and elements of foreign military intelligence community people. So like one of the realizations early on was that nuclear weapon testing has a ripple effect that
Chat, you don't get to say that word, Dan Farah. That the N word is not your word to say. Only MH370 is allowed to say that word, Dan Farah. How dare you? Do you see what they're doing here? I'm not trying to be that guy. Feels like they're encroaching on our narrative, chat. I'm feeling a little bit encroached over here. Feeling like all of a sudden we're talking about ripple effects of nuclear weapons on UFO technology. Hold up. Okay, keep going, Dan Farah. Keep going.
Can down these things.
Especially high altitude nuclear testing, which is one of the things that they did in the 1950s in particular.
Yeah, and so they started doing it.
Yeah.
To like shoot fish in a barrel, basically.
They did it on
1950s, you're saying? You mean the Ripple Project? Castle Bravo? Literally talking about the nuclear weapons testing? Neutronic fusion bombs that we were building in the early 60s? Bro. What are you doing right now? Are these guys, it really feels like they're stealing the narrative. Yes, we're throwing the flag. We're throwing the flag. Challenge flag. I'm challenging it here. We have a theft of a narrative. Theft of a narrative. This is a personal foul. Personal foul is going to be a 15-yard penalty. In fact, it's going to be a loss of down, too. It's going to be a loss of down.
On purpose?
Yeah. And so did
That's
Russia.
why they were doing it?
Yeah. And then Russia started doing it.
No.
Yeah. And then
it's like throwing dynamite into the river.
It's like fishing with dynamite.
Yeah, fishing with dynamite.
Okay. Wow. What to say about this? Well, obviously there's a connection between UFOs and nukes. What is the power source of your UFO? Even if I'm wrong, even if if UFOs are real, their power source is nuclear energy. Nuclear energy just means the atom. Splitting the atom, fusing the atom. They're working on the smallest possible scales. And they understand the universe better than we understand it because we can't even see things that are super tiny. I mean, we can see things that are pretty damn small at this point. We're getting really, really good. Our material science has been advancing over time. One thing I want to address is this crash argument. I actually heard it yesterday as well, saying that Sneezing Monkey saying, isn't it absurd that the aliens could be super advanced, but then crash? Not really. Everything crashes. Things fail. Things go poorly. There's actually a lot of explanations for why they might crash. And just like a surfer, it's kind of like saying that a surfer could never fall over. Of course, a surfer can fall over. They've learned how to surf on a wave. It doesn't make them invincible. That's the same idea as when we're manipulating, we're making gravitational waves. You're using electromagnetism. So if you get hit by some electromagnetism, it's going to knock you off. It's going to knock you and balance you. So I think that there is obviously some connection between nuclear weapons and UFOs. The energy source is the connection. But also you could then, if Knuckles was correct, if Lowell was correct, Lowell Wood, if those guys were correct, then nuclear weapons were manipulating space-time. And if that's the case, then that's like throwing a speed bump on the highway. You're throwing a speed bump onto the highway. People are trying to fly around here, bro. People are trying to fly around with our warp drives, and you're nuking things in the sky. It's going to mess things up. In fact, there's other scenarios as well. Just today, I was seeing this, the twin universe theory, which is one that goes way back. Imagine that on one side of our reality, there's an alternate reality, the exact inverse of our reality. It's a weird idea, but it's possible. If we are nuking things and we are manipulating the bridge between these realities by adding, removing this huge amount of energy, then that may show up on their side as well. So there's a lot of different ways that nuclear weapons could be impacting UFOs. Totally agree. The part I'm less convinced on is that the aliens would even care. So what, bro? Okay, you figured out nuclear energy. Welcome to being a type 0 civilization. Wow, you're basically the equivalent of a dog at this point. You're the equivalent of an ant. Bravo. Bravo. I mean, until you're using that technology to destroy a solar system or to make a Dyson sphere or to teleport across the galaxy, you're still not really a threat. Just because you figure out nuclear weapons doesn't make you a threat. The only scenario that makes sense to me for why the aliens would show up after a nuke, I get the idea. I would say a stretch is that, okay, they're messing with the highway. Well, the problem is they don't have to fly past Earth when they're in their warp drive. The only situation that makes sense is if they're already here on this planet or they're monitoring us. And it's possible we could be on a prison planet. I kind of feel like I'm on a prison planet every day. Feels that way. So maybe they're monitoring us and we hit a certain level of technology and then they step in and they're like, okay, you don't know what you just unlocked. Chill out. Chill out. You're a little too primitive for that. I could see that scenario. I don't like the scenario where they try to argue that the aliens are protecting us from ourselves, because it's just too much of an edge case. Like, in order for them to protect us from ourselves, they would have to care about us. Why do the aliens care about us? We're insignificant. If they have fusion energy, they probably have replicators. They can teleport wherever they want to go. They can be invisible. Why would they care about a primitive species like us? That the amount of energy we absorb, we can pull is like the size of the light. We're basically nothing. We don't matter to them. So this is the part where I don't understand, like, why they would protect us from ourselves or what have you. There's obviously explanations for that, but these are the kinds of questions that need answers. Where it's like, if you're going to propose these ideas, if you're going to try to sell me on a story of the aliens shutting down the nukes, then give me a reason. Give me one that's palatable that I can actually understand. And, you know, maybe it is something like that we have a soul. But the thing about it, these people know. One thing I'm not going to accept is this idea that they don't know what it is. No, fuck that, chat. We're swearing a lot tonight. Fuck that. This idea that they're like, no, we got no idea what it is. There's 100% things flying around. And by the way, they're 100% non-human intelligence, but we just got no idea what it is. What do you mean, man? How do you know it's non-human intelligence if you have no idea what it is? And I know that's bullshit. We know it's bullshit because we heard from John Ramirez how the system works. The way that it works is they see something in some surveillance. They're watching Gorgon stare and they see these three orbs spinning around an object. That triggers an alert. Somebody flags that. Now they pull in a bunch of teams. They pull in the defense contractors. They pull in Hal Puthoff. They review it. They write a report about it. Somebody writes that report. That report exists somewhere in the government. And those things can never be deleted. They're probably classified, but they're not being deleted. Those reports have information in them that would say, like, oh, this must be a neutronic plasma because you can see the field reverse configuration, the same exact things that we have been doing. The exact same things that we've been doing, looking at the MH370 videos. the government, the defense contractors, they would be doing with UFOs. So when they try to sell us on this idea that we just don't know what it is, bullshit. If you didn't know what it was and there's magical plasma balls flying around in the sky, you would put all resources into figuring out what it is and how it works and how we can build it. And that's what's really going on. I don't have a clip for this, but somewhere else in here, maybe I do have a clip, actually. Wait, let me go back real quick. I don't see it here. There's another clip, though, where Dan Farah basically says that we've got these crash retrievals, we've got this technology, and we are in this race. We are fighting with China and Russia to figure out who can get this technology out there faster. And when I look at that, I said, that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. That is what's happening. And in fact, you can argue that's what's happening in the MH370 videos. The thing that makes the most sense in MH370 videos is like, this is some kind of China, Russia, jockeying for a position in the global hierarchy of nuclear weapons, alien weapons, whatever you want to call it. And they're all trying to figure out who can advance this first. The thing that they're not saying, that I don't think Dan Farah knows, I think even like people like Dan Farah are being misled by his own witnesses, is that we already won. We already won that war. We won that war 60 years ago. We won that war 60 years ago. And we've been winning that war 60 years ago, since 60 years ago. That's the part that people don't understand. We already got there first. Now we're just trying to hold on to the first position. And China is rapidly catching up because they've been spying on us. They've been stealing the technology. They've been doing whatever they can try to do to catch up to it. And we're in a full-on technological war against China right now over semiconductors, over fusion research, over AI, all the things you see in the MH370 videos. We are currently battling China right now publicly. How crazy is that? NVIDIA, semiconductors, AI, fusion, these are all the things we're trying to beat them on. The things that we're seeing in the MH370 videos. This is where Jason Jorjani wrote a really good article about our conversation, about neutronic fusion, about the significance of this and these weapons. And he said something at the end that really stuck with me when I read it. You guys should check it out. And check out our conversation for sure. He said, we have weaponry. We have a technological advantage right now because of this 0-point energy weapons. Call them whatever you want. Nukes. I don't even know what the appropriate terminology is for these weapons. Nuclear weapons, plasma weapons, 0-point energy weapons, UFO weapons, alien weapons. Maybe they're all correct. We have weapons that the human mind cannot even comprehend. The human mind can't even comprehend it when you see it. We should be using that advantage to basically make a hegemony, I think is how he says it, basically dominate the planet. Basically be like Britannia in Code Geass. That's an anime if you haven't seen it. It's a really good anime if you haven't seen it. Code Geass, chat. Code Geass, Britannia, basically the show starts with a plot point where the United States never broke away from Britain, Great Britain. And because the United States never broke away from Great Britain ends up becoming the most powerful country in the entire world. And because they are a monarchy, they basically spread imperial rule all over the entire planet. And then the only competitors that they have are like a Southeast Asian coalition and like Africa, but they can't really compete. So that should be what we do. Now, you might say right off the bat, Ashton, that is straight up fascism. That is totalitarianism. It's only those things if we act like that. It's only those things if we act fascist and we do those things. The reality of the world is it's not rainbows and unicorns. Somebody's always going to be in charge. If you believe in America and being America first, then if you have a huge technological advantage, you should take advantage of it for your people. Trade deals, preventing war, stopping wars that are already happening, any way that you can. And we should be helping out other countries that are disadvantaged, in my opinion, but that takes it to the next step. So the most important part is that we should be spreading our power. We should be using our power. And I think that's exactly what Trump is doing right now. I think that's exactly what he's doing right now. I just saw a leaked peace plan for the Ukraine. Trump has basically ended every single war on earth. It's even weird to say that. If the Ukraine war gets ended, I think Trump will have ended essentially every single major war on earth. It's pretty weird to think about that. And at the same time, we're lowering the deficit, and he's flexing on people. He's talking about we have weapons nobody understands. He's telling Putin, he's telling Russia, you said the N word. You don't ever say that word. We just sent a secret submarine that you can't even detect. Think about that. Our biggest adversary, Russia, said nuclear, and we sent a nuclear submarine that they can't even detect because it's probably got some plasma around it that has got weapons on it that is going to render their nukes completely obsolete. That's what we should be doing. That, in my opinion. My opinion, we're doing the right thing. The only thing that I'm not down with is that I'm not seeing the benefits on the ground level. I still see homeless people everywhere I go. People struggling everywhere. There was a lady today at the gas station when I got this Mountain Dew. And she was buying a guy a bag of chips. Homeless guy who's sitting outside just in the cold. Why does that exist? Why isn't there a warm place for that guy to go hang out at? At a minimum. At a minimum. We've got teleportation and free energy plasma technology, but there's homeless dudes sitting on the corner of the gas station in the cold. That's just something my mind can never wrap its head around. Probably not till the day I die. Okay, so a few other points I want to talk about in this interview. Just some of the big points I thought were relevant from Jason Jorjani. One was that the Nazis were testing. Well, first of all, I want to say several times I was emotionally moved in the conversation because the parallels that Jason Jorjani were bringing up, I wasn't expecting them, and they were so perfectly aligned with my research, our research, that I almost couldn't believe it. And then when Jason Jorjani brings up John Ramirez watching me, which I thought was bizarre because I knew he had made that post about the satellites, I started to kind of realize there are, sure, I've fallen off. There's not thousands of people watching the stream, but there are significant people watching it. Significant people are still paying attention. And that, to me, I don't know, a little emotional. So Jason Jorjani says that there was a secret Nazi testing facility. A secret Nazi testing facility where they were working on plasma research, where they were potentially using mercury, spinning mercury, possibly turning it into a plasma and using it for electrogravitic effects. And these electrogravitic effects are the same things, direct connection to the physics for how we do fusion. And so then Jason brings up a really good point. He says, how did we know? We didn't test the nuke that we dropped. Why did we not test it? Isn't that interesting? Because I think that's actually true. We didn't end up testing it at all. We just knew it would work. How did we know that the nuke would work? There were people at the time that didn't think nukes were real. They thought nukes were fake. There's still people that think nukes are fake now. So I just thought that was a great point, which is like, wait a minute. How did we know the nukes were going to work? Did we just, I don't know, hope and pray? We're like, hey, it seemed to work on a small scale. It'll definitely work. We thought it might destroy the entire, thought it might just, destroy the atmosphere. But then it got darker. The story got even darker after that. The story is really dark. Is that this idea that what if they really did have some different branch of physics that the Nazis were experimenting on that we would call gravity manipulation? What if they really did have that research? And people say, well, if they had that, why didn't they nuke us? Well, because they understood, they found some principle of physics, but they weren't able to engineer it. They were working on it. They were trying to engineer it. But that's the thing. If this technology is real, why don't we have flying cars right now? Because the material science has to catch up. The material science has to catch up to the physics. This is talked about all the time by the Black Project engineers. They needed the material science. They needed the laser technology. They needed the metamaterial technology. They needed all this stuff. They needed the microchips to catch up. So I think there's pretty good chance that what Jason said is true. And what he said is that the Nazis figured this technology out. And what did they do with it? They used it as leverage to save their lives. Woo, chat. Now you're speaking my language. Because if I was a Nazi that you knew you were going to lose the war, there's no way we're beating America and all these countries. And the reason, by the way, the reason why America won World War II is because of our production. We simply outproduced everybody. You can't compete with somebody that can produce multiple warships every year when you're a tiny country like Japan. You just can't compete. We can just outscale everybody because our production was huge. So you know you're going to lose. You see the writing on the wall. You're like, we're going to lose to America. It's just a matter of time, even if we take out a lot of people. So what do? You say, hey, we want to flip sides. We're done with this. We don't like this Hitler guy anymore. Let's which gods do you want us to pray to? Sure. Just point me in the right direction. You want me to pray to the giant head in the sky? Sure. Whatever it is. By the way, you know what? If you give me safe passage and let me live in America as an American, even though I'm technically was working as a Nazi underneath Hitler, then I'll give you in response the Ark of the Covenant. You say, what? The Ark of the Covenant? You don't have the Ark of the Covenant. Ark of the Covenant's not even real. Yes, it is. The Ark of the Covenant is gravity manipulation technology. Electrogravitics, the same technology that Tesla was working on. And what does America say? America says, hell yeah. America says, why the hell not, chat? Why not? Who says no? Who says no to that deal? I'll give you the keys to the universe. But you just got to let go of these transgressions where maybe we killed a few million Jews. Maybe we experimented on them, did horrific things. But we got some occult technology here. Got some occult technology here that you might be interested in. I don't know. Why is it so compelling to me? I think the reason why it's so compelling is because of the videos, because of the MH370 videos. Because that's exactly what it feels like we're seeing in the MH370 videos. When people are like, hey, why are they recording? Why are they using this weapon on the plane? Why? I don't know. Why did the Nazis kill a bunch of Jews? Why were the Nazis doing occult shit? Why were the Nazis making electrogravitic technology? Because they can? Because they can and nobody's going to stop them? Because then they can just go make a deal later on and for their lives and then they can just go create NASA. They can be Werner von Braun and become the father of rocket technology in the United States. So that's what I thought was pretty wild, is that potentially the Nazis might have made flying saucer technology, which would have been rudimentary anti-gravitational technology, would have been flying saucers because of spin, because of the spin of the Mercury. We would have thought we needed pilots in there because we didn't have drone technology way back then. Whereas now it's kind of stupid. Why would aliens ever be flying around in a spaceship? They would just send a drone. They're never going to send themselves if it's dangerous. So it kind of makes sense that the Nazis may have developed this technology, and we may have been early flying saucer sightings could have been this exact technology. And then we took their scientists and their engineers. And this is not debatable. This is another great part of why it's so convincing is Project Paperclip is real. And the writer of the nuclear textbook that I read is a Project Paperclip scientist. Freidwart Winterberg is a Project Paperclip scientist. Inertial confinement fusion. Literally, his mentor was Werner Heisenberg, the Heisenberg. So the Project Paperclip stuff is real. We clearly were trying to brain drain them. The only question is, what were we trying to get out of them? What were we trying to get out of them? And it seems like aneutronic fusion, or at least fusion in general, is one of those things. Is one of those things. So the next big plot point, after the Nazis use gravity manipulation technology as leverage, and what I'm presenting now is an alternative theory to the alien hypothesis. The alien hypothesis being that the aliens gave us this technology or we got crash retrievals. The other theory is that we've just been developing it. Now, this doesn't rule out aliens because maybe Nazis got the technology from aliens. Who knows? Or maybe there's more than one crash. Maybe multiple things are crashing and we're picking them up through the ages and we're just getting better and better. What I do know is we got some shit right now that definitely goes back to Tesla. Goes all the way back to Tesla. This technology does. And the key point where we seem to have stolen it, if I'm pointing now, or we're focusing in on aneutronic fusion, which is what the topic was. The year that we seem to have stolen, this isn't even is it really alt history? It's just real history, but we're just interpreting it. We're interpreting the effects of the history because nobody's denying that this history happened. Project Paperclip is real. It's just like, what did they get out of it and why? Ronald Richter says he saw these plasma experiments in the Nazis in the 30s. Says he saw it. Says he knew it would work because he saw it with the Nazis. That's huge to me. Why would he lie about that? No reason to lie about that. Then he really went and built a fusion reactor, 100%. People went and reviewed it, and he clearly had the right equipment set up to do it. So he was at least trying to build a real fusion reactor. So that's just another huge plot point where you're like, wait, so in the 50s, this guy goes to Argentina, and now he's trying to build a clean fusion reactor, which we now know means aneutronic fusion reactor. And then what happened? He gets discredited. This might be the first case where they use disinformation and suppression to hide the physics. They said, oh, this doesn't work. I actually read the debunks of Ronald Richter's work. They said that, get this. Are you ready for this? You're going to love this, guys. This might be another Yahtzee. They said the temperatures were too low for fusion to happen. Temperatures of the plasma were too low for fusion to happen, you say. That's interesting. Right here in this scientific paper that we were just reading, it says that cold non-equilibrium plasmas can actually burn cold using aneutronic fusion fuels. Well, you look at that, quite interesting. So when I read the debunks, you realize, holy crap, they were trying to debunk it from a conventional perspective of physics. not from a Tesla perspective of physics at all. So if that really did work, then what happened to all his work? It all got classified. It all got taken. So presumably the United States rolls up and we just take that technology. Sorry, we're going to go ahead and take that lab. Nothing to see here. By the way, you're not building any more fusion reactors. That's never going to happen again. But we'll go ahead and take that research. We'll go ahead and we'll have some of that. So that was in the 50s. That was in the 50s. And then in like 1959 and 1963, then what's happening? Then we're doing the Ripple project. We're doing the Ripple project, and we are literally making clean fusion bombs. So now you've got a direct connection between Ronald Richter and then just 10 years later, the United States government, who had been stealing all these scientists and technology, now we're making clean fusion bombs, and we are successful. We are successful at doing it. 1962. We build the clean fusion bomb. Nobody gets to see it. Sorry, no one gets to see it. And then what do we do right after that? We ban all nuclear weapons. Sorry, no one's allowed to do this anymore. No one's allowed to do this anymore. Okay, that's weird. It's like when you discover the secret sauce and you're like, nobody else is allowed to have this. You're like, okay, nothing to see here behind this door. There's no pots of gold at the end of this rainbow. Nobody look over here, guys. There's nothing down here that you need to see. We ban all nuclear weapons testing. No one's allowed to test weapons anymore. Sorry. It's like you couldn't be more guilty than that. In retrospect, if I'm right, in retrospect, it's going to be funny how obvious it was. It's going to be like, oh, of course we figured out some principle of physics right there about the nukes, about the clean H-bombs. And then we couldn't let anybody else have it because it's just, we figured out the next tech tree, guys, and nobody else allowed to have that tech tree. So aneutronic fusion is really the big thing. And I think that Jason Jorjani knows. He obviously has connections, by the way. Jason obviously has connections in the government. Probably the CIA people. Probably John Ramirez is one of them. And so I think he knew that I'm over the mark with this, and I think he knew how it parallels in his own work, and that's probably why he was so excited, because he was really excited to have this conversation with me about this. And aneutronic fusion is the secret. It's the secret because what we just learned today is that it also enables cold plasmas. The fusion fuel is what enables the cold plasmas. And so now we're even more skeptical of the helium fusions of the world who are doing this aneutronic fusion using helium-3. And we're going, wait a minute, bro. Where did you get that idea from? Where did you get that idea from, bro? Because I'm doing a history book. I'm doing a history lesson right now. And I'm able to have that go all the way back to Ronald Richter in 1953. It goes all the way back to Ronald Richter, maybe even further back to the Nazis. Okay, a few more things that I thought were really good. We talked a little bit about like biological life integrating with AI. Actually, I think I talked about this a little bit on the last stream, which is I think that people are going to eventually, I think they are going to get brain chips. I think little kids are probably going to get brain chips too. And I think it's going to happen. And I think people will be shocked and horrified by how quickly that happens, by how quickly this technology gets absorbed. Because if I'm right, if we are right about this technology, then all the technology we have today most likely originates from this technology. All the public technology, all the massive advancement technology we've been experiencing comes from this origin. And that means we've been absorbing technology at a rate that wouldn't have seemed possible. And we've been pretty oblivious to it. We've been pretty oblivious that technology is going like this. And nobody's asking the question, man, isn't it weird how fast our technology is going? Nobody even knows how this iPhone works. Nobody even knows how it works. Nobody could even rebuild this. None of you could. Basically, nobody could even rebuild this thing. Nobody even cares. Nobody even cares. Like, when's the next one? When's the next one coming out? Let me go line up for it. It's scary to think that we basically live in a matrix. People want to know, what is 0-point energy? How do you understand 0-point energy? What's the easiest way to understand it? Think of the movie The Matrix, except for the Matrix is space-time itself. The Matrix is space. The universe itself is the Matrix. That Matrix is energy. The Matrix that's making this projection that we live in has its own energy source that allows it to exist. And when we're tapping into 0-point energy, we're tapping into that energy source. So you think of it as like, okay, this is a matrix. I can make a fire here. That's cool. But the fire is just the matrix making a fire. So if I were to tap into the underlying source of what's producing this coherence that we understand to be our reality, then I've tapped into the space juice. Tapped into the space juice, the underlying framework of reality. That's how you should think of the 0-point energy. You think of the 0-point energy as the universe, as the matrix itself. And this is where Jason Jorjani then says, what if when we're setting off nukes, we're damaging the matrix? He presents a lot of really good ideas that I hadn't even considered. Even his 9/11 theory was one that actually gave me pause. Because you guys know that I'm a debunker, that I'm a skeptic. But he actually said, well, what if the towers were already, what if they were already set up with explosives when they were built? It's like, damn, okay. You actually came with an excuse. You came with an explanation that, possible, at least, possible. So the nuking the matrix, also possible. This is a better explanation for why the UFOs would care about us figuring out nukes. Because if we figured out nukes, we're actually damaging space-time. We're manipulating space-time. We're making rips in space-time. That's essentially what we're doing with our nukes. We're manipulating the actual fabric of space-time. And if that allows us to teleport, then you can see the significance of doing that from a physics perspective. But there's more implications. It may be more. It could be that when we pull 0-point energy out, we're actually damaging the matrix itself. That's possible. I don't think that's the case, but it's possible. There's another scarier implication that was just mentioned in the chat by Rick James. F your couch. What if time travel is possible? What if when we are ripping through the matrix, we're not just ripping through distance, we're ripping through time as well? If we're able to figure out retrocausality can be thought of as you going back in time or sending a message back in time, then yes, we could see things like the Mandela effect. That would be the type of effect that we would expect, is that the time stream, even our current reality, could be manipulated without us even understanding that it was. Because you get these closed time-like curves, which is just like the movie Dark, where it's like, okay, in the future, 20 years from now, I make a time machine and I go back in time, and then I give myself the MH370 videos. Maybe I'm Regicide Anon. Like, this is a perfect example. What if I'm Regicide Anon and I don't even realize it? Because 20 years from now, I send a message back in time and I put the videos on the internet as Regicide Anon with the exact stuff that's in there, received March 12th, 2014. And you would say, but wait, if you did that 20 years from now, then who made the videos? And the answer is nobody made the videos. The videos just always existed. The videos always existed. And me takes the same videos that I put back on the internet and I find them when I'm younger, right? That's a closed time-like curve. So if we start doing that a bunch, what are the implications of doing that more than once? Heck, doing that even once is scary. But imagine you could just do that repeatedly. Now you're just basically, you're in the Marvel multiverse at this point. Now it's like you're either making alternative divergent paths and everybody's living in their own universe, Or maybe we're in some weird shared version of a multiverse all the time and we're getting Mandela effect type things happen. Or the butterfly effect, as somebody pointed out. Those are scary thoughts, man. So these are real things that we have to consider from a physics perspective. It is, I would call this hard sci-fi. It's hard sci-fi because it's based on real physics principles, not on science fiction, fantasy, imagination world of physics. And in the real physics world, we can travel faster than the speed of light. I think it's funny because it's hard for even famous Harvard astrophysicists, who shall not be named, but whose initials are Avi Loeb, they don't believe we can go faster than the speed of light. And if you don't believe we can go faster than the speed of light, you have boxed yourself in from a physics perspective. That's why a lot of the sci-fi sucks. That's why a lot of the sci-fi out there sucks ass. Because it doesn't go based on real physics. We know faster than light travel is possible because we see quantum entanglement. We see quantum entanglement, and it's been proven, and we can see two things that are connected, and they're acting faster than the speed of light. So somehow it's possible. We just don't quite understand how to manipulate it yet. But we do. ER equals EPR. So the next scary part, this is political as well. The technology transfer to China. Jason Jorjani says, if you ever get to talk to John Ramirez, ask him about the technology transfer to China. This gave me chills. Absolute chills. Still gives me chills to think about it right now. How much do you want to bet the fucking Obama administration? Maybe not even him, maybe even before him. I bet you we transferred some of this technology to China in some diplomatic exchange of bullshit. Said, you know what? We want to be cool with you, CCP. So here you go. We'll teach you that quantum mechanics is real. And in exchange, you give us a bunch of cheap goods. I could absolutely see that happening. Like when he said it, I'm like, oh, shit, chat. I'm like, is the only reason why China's even close right now because we previously gave them a bunch of technology? Because we had a bunch of weird CIA deals where we're trying to spy on Russia. Like we were trying to spy on Russia, and who's right next to Russia? Oh, China is. So in exchange for us being allowed to spy and set up surveillance stuff on Russia, well, we gave them some technology. We said, we got some secret, quantum radar technology that we want to implement in China that we can use to spy on Russia. And in exchange, we'll give you a little bit. You can have a little taste. You never do that, chat. Number one rule of secret technology. Never give them a taste. They're like drug addicts. First time's free. They got to come back for more. They need another bite of that forbidden fruit. And what do we see having happen? What looks like happened to MH370 is that China was trying to steal microchip technology. And we were like, no, that ain't going to happen today. The bank is closed on Sundays. Sorry. We got some orb technology says no. So the China transfer thing really bugs me, man. Really bugs me. Not because there's a lot of evidence for it, because my spider sense goes off when I hear it. Because Salvatore Pais has been yelling that he's afraid about China's catching this up. And I'm looking at Chinese scientific papers that are referencing Hal Puthoff. I'm looking at Chinese scientific papers about warp drives referencing Hal Puthoff and other plasma ones that are referencing Salvatore Pais. So I'm pretty worried about China catching up to us on this. And they're going to eventually. It's just a matter of time. What that means is that we're looking at a future war with China. Just like John Warner was saying, how do we avoid World War III? That's what this is all about. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But at some point in the future, 10 years from now, 25 years from now, we are looking at a quantum war with China, where AIs and drones are fighting each other, where humans are just sitting in their chairs, playing video games, controlling drones that are zapping things to Narnia, basically. So, a couple more things, and then we're good for tonight. Can't let Iran have this technology. You just can't let. And what did Jason actually brought up some really good points about this. And actually, I was listening to Charlie Kirk bring up really good points about this. And Jason said it's not that the Iranian people are anti-American. Actually, the Iranian people are more pro-American than most countries in the Middle East. I don't know if that's true, but that makes sense. At the end of the day, the individual people are not really at fault for their government. But the problem is that they have a theocratic government. Their government is literally theocratic. And Charlie Kirk, when he said Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, he gave specific reasons why. Because in those countries, there is no freedom of speech. There's no freedom of religion. You are Muslim. You are Islamic. Or you're an outcast. That's it. And their religion says that you must push the religion through the state. So it's the exact opposite of what we have in the United States. We say that we have separation of church and state, which means that you have freedom of religion and freedom from religion as well. That does not exist in the Middle East, certainly not in Iran. So, and they all say that their religion should be the one and only religion. So if you add up these three factors, this leads to a situation where you simply cannot be allowed to have doomsday weapons. You can't have them. Sorry. You are not advanced enough to live on this world. If you think that you've got to wipe out everybody who's not like you, then that's just not compatible with being allowed to have doomsday weapons. You're clearly not responsible enough for that. This goes for anybody with that viewpoint, except for us. And you say, Ashton, that's the most hypocritical thing I've ever said. Yeah. Welcome to the real world, bro. Oh, no. Hypocrisy, chat. We're hypocrites. Yeah, well, you know who gets to be a hypocrite? The ones with the plasma orbs. Those are the people that get to be the hypocrites. Everybody else gets to play by their rules. That's how the real world works, guys. That's how the real world works. It's not that I like it. It's not that I'm happy about it. It's just how the real world works. And this is why they let me do this. Why are they letting me do this? Because we're cooked, man. Because their whole plan that they're doing with this age of disclosure, it's not working. It's not working at all, man. If I had to rate how well this disclosure movement is going with these movies and what have you, I mean, I'd give it like a D-. I'd give it like a D-. Like, how many minds have been changed by these disclosure movies? Practically zero. Basically, nobody's mind is being changed by this. I look around on conservative media because I'm plugged into conservative social media. Nobody's talking about age of disclosure. Nobody cares about it. None of them do. Not even one of the MAGA people care about it. None. You have the same 4 congressmen who've been in the UFO thing talking about it, and then a bunch of lefty libtard people that are basically encapsulate the UFO community. They're basically the only people. It's like the one guy said it the best, like the mildly stoned libtards are talking about how great the movie was and how it's going to change people's minds. Because I think that they thought in their mind that if everybody believed that the aliens are real, and they still think this, I think, they're now floating this idea that Trump's going to say that the aliens are real. Like, they really think in their minds that once that people admit that aliens are real, that somehow this is going to cause some profound change in people, in humanity, that we'll be ready for this technology or whatever. But that is not going to happen. So on one hand, I'm doing the thing that they couldn't even do. I'm waking up more people, just as a dude with a relatively small social media account, than people that are backed by the CIA, that have Hollywood investment and funding, that are making major motion pictures. Like, they're doing nothing. It's not working. But at the same time, this technology has been so brainwashed So we've been so brainwashed to ignore this that they're not even afraid. As long as they say nothing at all, then it's extremely difficult for me to hit the burden of proof. As long as they try not to pay attention to the videos, try not to respond to them, try not to mention them, there's not much they can do. But at the end of the day, if it's doomsday either way, if we're looking at doomsday, then hey, you might as well let this guy do his best. Let this Ashton Forbes guy, maybe he'll wake up a few people. Maybe he'll get lucky. But what are the odds that I'm actually going to be able to, produce disclosure? Pretty much zero. Pretty much zero. Because again, that's not how the world works. You can pretty clearly see that things are coordinated when you're watching Dan Farah go on Joe Rogan the exact same day that his documentary drops. It's not a coincidence. How do you think you're like, oh, I'm on Joe Rogan, now I'm on CNN, now I'm on Fox News? I'll tell you what, guys, as a guy that's been moderately famous, that shit doesn't happen organically. That doesn't happen organically. You have a PR person that knows the producer at these places that tells you they're my best friend and I'll get you on there and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to coordinate it for the day that the movie comes out. It's like that level of PR, that level of coordination requires resources to pull that all off. Two more things. One, nukes are demons. I loved that Jason Jorjani took a shot at Tucker Carlson. Because in part, Tucker Carlson is right. Nuclear weapons, if we are right about nuclear weapons, it's demonic, it's evil. In a sense, it is. I mean, we're talking about the Alpha and the Omega. We're talking about revelations. We're talking about the end of the world. So there's absolutely a biblical aspect to it. And I think that you could also argue there's a good versus evil aspect to it. At the same time, claiming that UFOs are literally made by demons, which is what I'm afraid Tucker is saying. I'm afraid he literally means demons came from hell and made UFOs and made nuclear weapons. That's crazy. That's actually just crazy. The people that are the demons that made the UFOs, the people that are the demons that made the nuclear weapons, it's us. It's human beings that made this technology. We're the bad guys. The takeaway from this is we are the bad guys, not the aliens, not the demons. We're just pushing our own responsibility onto all of these things. And I love that Jason's able to see that, even as a guy that believes aliens, believes that Atlantis and all these other things, is that he can still, he sees clearly as I can imagine anybody sees. I don't consider him to be a crazy guy at all, actually. And to me, that Atlantis theory, the theory that it didn't even come here from somewhere else, that we've literally gone through cycles of civilization on this planet. That, to me, I don't really necessarily have a ton of evidence for it, but it just rings more likely to me than aliens coming and flying down here and crashing their flying saucers on our planet because for no reason. So that's just my personal opinion. And then, just as I said, I already kind of covered this. But we should be using our super weapons to dunk on the noobs. Chat, everybody knows when you're playing a video game, when you're playing World of Warcraft and you get that first Thunder Fury, what do you do with it? You get it on your rogue and then you just go grief people. You go into guys, if you guys didn't play World of Warcraft, I'll tell you how it goes. You're the one who you go to the raids and you get the super gear. The first thing you do is you go to the enemy's base, in their base, and you start griefing them. You start killing them in their base where they think they're safe. You use your advantage to dunk on the noobs. We have been dropping the ball, chat. America should be dunking on noobs the world over. And instead, we've been sitting here giving them favorable trade deals. Like, it literally took Trump to come in here and actually get some good trade deals for us. We've just been giving it. We've been selling out America, selling out our weapons, maybe even giving weapons to China. This is the shit that pisses me off the most. This is what actually gets me politically activated, is like, wait a minute. we had super weapons, and we could have just ended these wars anytime we wanted. We could just get the best trade deals ever. We could just have no homeless people. Everybody could be rich in America. But no, we didn't do that because a few people wanted to keep it all to themselves. Gross, man. Gross. Okay. Yes, we're still live, by the way, guys. Okay, let's do some donos. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight on a Friday night. We went about an hour longer. I was going to say at the beginning we're going to only go for a short time, but every time I do that, we end up going for a long stream. Sam Fisher, Helion dropped a new promo video yesterday. Can you please explain parts of the process that look nerfed to you? Yeah, first thing is going to be, what is their fuel source? Are they using lithium? I think we're going to find out they are using lithium, and they're just not talking about it. Boron and lithium, if you're not using the right fusion fuel, that's probably the #1 nerfing mechanism. But again, this is speculative. I haven't even watched the new video yet. I will watch it this weekend, though, for sure. And guys, tomorrow I will upload the debate video on my channel as well. I'm going to give the other guy, Sneezing Monkey, I want to give him the bulk of the views and the impressions. But I want to upload it on my channel, too, because I think it's a great example of a good debate between both sides. War Ranch LLC, thank you very much, brother. Appreciate you. Whoa, Booba 6553. Numbers in your names, guys. Secret. If you just want to be awesome on the internet, never put numbers in your username. The best people just are creative enough to never put numbers in their username. But thank you very much. Extended Electrodynamics, EED, chat. There's something else called SED. EED, Extended Electrodynamics, is basically SED with the ether. Add that ether in. I think that's right. Yeah, Stochastic Electrodynamics. Yeah. Thank you, War Ranch. Thank you for those donos, guys. And the Red Max Triax says, thank you for teaching us. You're really good at it. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm pretty good at teaching people stuff. I think the secret is just try to understand it yourself. I try to understand it conceptually. Like, what does it mean? As opposed to just throwing a bunch of big words out there. Like, how do I understand this? How do I make this make sense for people, for normal people like me? Sam Fisher, another follow-up super chat. With the exception of going interplanetary, do you think this tech can be used to protect cities or outright? Of course it can. Of course it can. Well, here's a good example. Thank you for this super chat, by the way. They are currently, you see this narrative of us talking about nuking an asteroid or nuking a meteorite that might hit the moon. Chat, they're not using a conventional nuke. When they talk about nuking asteroids or whatever like that, we need to be paying close attention. They're not talking about classic nukes. They're probably talking about using a clean fusion bomb and just zap that thing out of the sky. Bye. Send it to the sun. Who cares? So, yes, can we use this to defend ourselves? Absolutely. We should not be afraid of space rocks. This idea that a meteor is going to hit us and take us out, nah, bro. We got past that filter like almost 100 years ago. That's not a threat to us anymore. I used to be super afraid of that when I was a little kid. Like, a rock's going to hit us and wipe us out. Oh, no, there'll be nothing we can do about it like the dinosaurs. Nah, bro. I guarantee you that's not how we go out. That's not the end of us. It's going to be much worse than that. And natural disasters. I don't think you can control the weather with this technology. I mean, in theory, in the future, of course you can, but with our current level, probably not. Those plasma orbs are powerful, but they're not powerful enough to like make a hurricane form. But they might be possible. They might be strong enough to manipulate the weather, as in make something more extreme or less extreme, or to slightly redirect a thunderstorm. I could see stuff like that being possible for sure. And a lot of people talk about that on social media. So yes, this technology definitely has that. And I avoid those topics because I don't need that. I don't need additional conspiracies or events or things like that to explain the technology. And the other reason is that's how you get yourself discredited. When you start going out there, and you're seeing this right now, you're seeing this with Candace Owens and a lot of the other people that they took it too far. They flew too close to the sun. There are a lot of things out there that are conspiracies. Absolutely, conspiracies exist. But when you see everything as a conspiracy, you're going to miss. You're going to be wrong. And when you're wrong, people are going to hammer you. They hammer me when I'm wrong. And so what you should be doing is trying to minimize how much you're wrong, which means being very selective about when you decide to go all in on hurricane formation or making earthquakes happen or various other stuff like that, which you can't really prove. There's not really solid evidence for. Thank you for that, Dono. Timothy Foster in the chat says, good evening, Ashton and 4Orbi ambassadors in advance. Have a great, safe Thanksgiving. Yes, we are going to have a good Thanksgiving. We probably won't be streaming on Thanksgiving next week, but I will be streaming next week for sure, guys. Should be a fun one. And then a couple, there's way more super chats. Okay. And then Annie McPherson. Thank you, Ashton, for keeping it real. Thank you, Annie, for being in the chat. Appreciate you. Koba Killas 88. Where did they teleport to, or are they gone? First of all, I can't know for sure. I'm not psychic. I don't got psychic powers. I mean, I do have remote viewing powers. No, the reality is they probably were recording on the other side if that's teleportation. So we know they know, but we don't know. Like that plane could come out in one piece. It could come out in a million pieces. It could come out in the Andromeda galaxy. But no, I think it actually came out somewhere else on Earth. So where exactly did they go? Probably somewhere near the Maldives. Probably somewhere near where we found the debris. That's probably where the plane ended up coming out. Beyond that, I can't say. No idea. So actually, not no idea, but watch my interviews if you want to know my in-depth analysis on Diego Garcia, where and why the plane teleported where it did. But again, at the end of the day, it's speculative. Parts of the story, even with all this evidence, we don't know. The only people that can answer that is the United States government. The people that were recording those videos, the people that conducted that operation. They obviously had some reason. They're not just teleporting things for no reason whatsoever. This hasn't happened since. So those are the people that need to tell us those answers. And that's something else I wanted to say to the sneezing monkey. Is like when they say all these things about why they do this, why they do that. Look, man, I'm not whistleblowing. I'm not telling you I was part of the operation. I'm just telling you those videos are real. And so whatever you're seeing there is real too. And it has an explanation for why it's happening. Good question. Really good question. Resolute Decide. I haven't seen you in a while. But Ashton, I think you may be overlooking the implications of the Drake equation in conjunction with the physics that we're learning about. What do you mean in respect to that? The Drake equation is basically how many civilizations we should see in the galaxy. So it basically says, okay, what's the rate at which a solar system would form? How likely is there to be planets around the solar system? How likely is any individual planet likely to have life form on it? And I'm here to tell you, you can throw out the Drake equation. Just throw it. I never liked the Drake equation. I didn't like the Drake equation when I first learned about it in freshman year of college in my physics class. The reason why I didn't like it is because the Drake equation is like models. The reason why models aren't science is because they're not based in reality. You're doing modeling, and modeling is always going to be skewed based on your biases. Why are the models about the drift analysis fake? Because they were trying to come up with a reason for how the debris could be in Africa, and they reverse engineered it and came up with an answer for how. That's not science. That's just working backwards. Same thing they did with the Drake equation. What was the answer to the Drake equation? The answer to the Drake equation was one. There should be one civilization in the galaxy, and it's us. So basically, they just work backwards from assuming that there's only one, and then that's how they came up with the Drake equation. My opinion, and I'm pretty confident in this opinion, life is everywhere. Life is everywhere in the universe. Life is everywhere in the galaxy, and life is everywhere in the universe, and we aren't just not alone, but there's life all over the place, and then there is intelligent life and civilizations all throughout the galaxy as well. That's my opinion. And then the bigger question is, why are we not seeing them? Why are we not seeing them? Because we're not looking the right way. We're basically Native Americans doing smoke signals, wondering why we're not seeing other alien civilizations sending us back smoke signals. Well, pretty obvious answer for that. The aliens aren't using smoke signals to communicate. They're using something more advanced. They're using quantum technology, which means that the moment we start turning on our quantum technologies, we're going to see civilizations everywhere. We're going to hear them. We're going to see their signals. And so when they say they don't know what the UFO topic is, I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe it for even 1 second. Because these technologies are going to allow us to detect civilizations that are out there like that. Like, no question, we're seeing artificial signatures of warp drives, of communications that are being sent through quantum communications. We would be detecting all of that. And the moment you start detecting that, you're like, okay, we're clearly not alone in the universe, right? So that's my opinion on the Drake equation. Great question, though. Zapparoo, fantastic and spot on. Your research has proven the case 100%. Never stop talking. And the idiot critics and Redditards, in the words of the great Salvatore Pais, F them. F them. Yeah, and that's the thing. The letter to Ashton Forbes, never stop talking about it. Now I'm never going to stop talking about it either. Just because I like it. I like the physics. It's fun. It's cool. Sarah Sunisia, go Packers. How dare you? How dare you right now? That is such a low blow. Get out. Get out. I deny your existence. I deny your existence, chat. No mercy for Packer fans. Also just Bears fans too. Yeah, Lions fans, we feel bad for you. So we hold no animosity because we also have not won a Super Bowl. But you Packer fans, how dare you? How dare you, chat? Just kidding. Have a good one. I hope we do well, but it's not a great year for us this year. Alexander Slavnik, Booga Sphere, Seamless Shell, Piezo Hum, Simon Contact, Mass and AI. Suggest Piezo Electric and Neutron Drone. Why hoax this tech stack? I think you're making a little too many assumptions. A few too many assumptions on the Booga Sphere on this front. And I'm extremely skeptical of the Booga Sphere. Could be something, but for me, you got to turn it on. If you can't turn it on, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it unless you can turn it on. So if you turn it on, and I'm not talking about I poured some water on it and steam came off. I'm talking make the thing hover in the sky, right? Apply a current to it, turn it into plasma and have it float around. If you do that, then I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. Well, until then, I'm skeptical. But yeah, okay. And then I see a couple other follow-up donos here. So yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about the physics and the science. I'm just saying it's a leap to say that the Booga Sphere is essentially doing that. But thank you very much for those donations, Alex. I appreciate you, man. And yes, if more information comes out of the Booga Sphere, if someone can make it fly or do some more convincing. But again, these are the kinds of cases that, like I just said, guys, why do we not go all in on these things? Because A, we don't need them. We don't need the Booga Sphere to prove aneutronic fusion. We don't need that. The only thing that can happen is that can get somebody comes out and says, I'm the guy that hoaxed the Booga Sphere. You're an idiot for believing that it was real. It was fake the whole time. And then they'll use that to discredit all your theories. So why bother? Unless I'm the person that found it. Why? I just don't care that much. It's not this huge revelation that's going to prove everything. And honestly, that's true of the tridactyl mummies too. It's true of the tridactyl mummies. You say, well, Ashton, they tested it as can't be human DNA. Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares, and there might be a chance that it's fake, even if it's a small chance. And then they'll use that to say, yeah, see, you believe anything is aliens, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just telling you the real situation here. And this is why I really urge you guys to be cautious. And a lot of people were cautious about me in the MH370 videos, and they should be too. Because turns out I've got the keys to the castle right here. We've got the whole cake ready to go. Here you go. Here's the answer to the thing you were looking for. So they should be cautious. But what they should have done is they should have done their own research. And yes, this is why I dropped the Miami aliens too. Why did I drop the Miami aliens so fast? People were actually on me saying, you got to keep digging into the Miami aliens. Because A, they were immediately using it to attack me and discredit me, which I didn't really care about at the time. But then the letter to Ashton Forbes came out and said, you should stop talking about stupid Miami alien shit. The letter to Ashton Forbes says it twice. You could talk about Miami aliens, but there's something a little bit more interesting. So those are all our super chats tonight, guys. Thank you so much for all the super chats, guys. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out tonight on this Friday. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the Jason Jorjani podcast. Check out the debate with the sneezing monkey, which is a great debate, guys. If you haven't watched it, make sure you check it out. We'll be back on Monday talking about more science, more physics. Hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving. See you guys on Monday. Later, everybody. Peace out.
Carl.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism, plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear.